You are sitting in the dark, staring at a screen that refuses to light up. You have double-texted, over-explained, and poured your absolute heart out to someone who is giving you nothing but silence. You are bending your entire life around their schedule. You are constantly lowering your standards, analyzing their mixed signals, and trying to decode their indifference as if it is a puzzle you can solve. You believe that if you just try a little harder, explain your value a little clearer, and chase them a little faster, they will finally turn around and give you the validation you are desperately begging for. Let us speak the brutal, unvarnished truth right now. You are not fighting for connection, and you're not fighting for success. You are volunteering for psychological slavery. Modern society has romanticized the chase. We are told that if we want something, we must run after it relentlessly, even if it degrades our dignity. But the ancient Stoic masters, men who possessed absolute authority over empires and their own minds, understood a terrifyingly beautiful law of human economics. The moment you begin to chase, you instantly destroy your own value. They knew that true power is never loud, never frantic, and absolutely never desperate. True power is established when you stop running, drop your expectations, and wield the most devastating psychological weapon of all, your absolute absence. Today we are going to dismantle the fragile, desperate architecture of your mind. We are going to explore 6 brutal Stoic laws that will permanently sever your addiction to chasing. When you install these principles, you will stop bleeding your premium energy into people who do not value it. You will stop expecting the world to hand you what you want, and you will learn the cold, lethal art of simply disappearing. Before we reconstruct your inner citadel, you must make a definitive choice. Are you going to continue running on a treadmill of rejection, or are you ready to stand completely still in your own power? If you are genuinely tired of being an option, hit the subscribe button right now to join an elite echelon of sovereign minds. Share this transmission with someone who is currently drowning in their own desperation. And whatever you do, do not skip a single moment of this blueprint. Every law we uncover is a critical piece of the titanium armor you are about to put on. Seal your commitment to this transformation today. Drop this exact vow in the comments right now. I refuse to chase. I reclaim my absence. Number 1. The absolute cessation of the frantic pursuit. Look closely at the mechanics of the chase. Whether it is a romantic partner pulling away, a client ignoring your pitch, or a social circle making you feel excluded, your biological reflex is to accelerate. You want to close the distance. You try to force a connection by being overly accommodating and hyper-available, but consider the unyielding law of scarcity. What runs away is perceived as valuable. What endlessly pursues is perceived as cheap. The Stoic warrior understands that anything requiring a frantic pursuit is fundamentally misaligned with their destiny. To become truly untouchable, you must practice the absolute cessation of the chase. When someone signals that they are unsure of your value, you do not launch a public relations campaign to convince them otherwise. You stop moving. You withdraw your investment completely. You realize that a sovereign mind does not negotiate for a seat at a table where they are not respected. By refusing to pursue, you instantly strip them of their leverage. You flip the dynamic from desperation to quiet, chilling authority. Anchor your new baseline today. Comment below if it requires chasing. It does not belong to me. Number 2. The clinical amputation of expectation. You are chronically exhausted because your mind is constantly writing scripts for how the world ought to behave. You expect the person you helped to be loyal. You expect the hours you put in to be recognized. You expect your devotion to be mirrored, and the exact fraction of a second reality deviates from your script. Your entire emotional framework shatters. You spiral into resentment, anger, and despair. Expectation is the ultimate architect of human misery. It is an arrogant demand that the chaotic, unpredictable universe bend to your personal preferences. To master your reality, you must perform a clinical amputation of expectation. The ancient masters practiced the discipline of radical acceptance. You must enter every interaction, every negotiation, and every relationship carrying zero mental demands for the outcome. You offer your effort, your truth, and your presence, but you emotionally detach from the return on investment. When you expect nothing, the world loses its ability to disappoint you. A betrayal no longer ruins you. It simply provides raw data about someone's character. When you sever the cord of expectation, you become a deeply grounded force of nature, entirely immune to the unpredictable shifting of the wind. Declare your emotional independence right now. Type this: I trade my expectations for absolute acceptance. Number 3. The lethal weaponization of silence. We live in a culture that is utterly terrified of dead air. When someone withdraws or when an awkward conflict arises, your immediate impulse is to fill the void. You send the double text. You write a massive paragraph detailing your hurt feelings. You speak constantly because you believe that if you can just find the perfect combination of words, you can manipulate the situation back in your favor. Your words are bleeding out your authority. You are showing them that your nervous system is in a state of sheer panic. If you want to command instant, undeniable respect, you must learn to weaponize silence. When you are disrespected, disregarded, or treated as an option, the most dominant move you can make is to offer absolutely nothing. You do not explain your boundaries. You silently enforce them. You do not argue your worth. You quietly remove your presence. Silence is a mirror that forces the other person to stare directly at their own behavior. It unnerves them. It disrupts their assumption that they own your reactions. The individual who can endure the silence without breaking is always the individual who controls the reality of the room. Claim your authority over the noise today. Drop this vow in the comments. My silence speaks with an authority my words never could. Number 4. The strategic embrace of disappearance. There is a devastating error in your social strategy. You believe that visibility equals value. You think that if you disappear, you will be forgotten, replaced, and abandoned. So you stay. You stay in the toxic environment. You stay in the unreciprocated dynamic. You linger on the edges of their life, accepting the bare minimum just to maintain a fragile connection. You have made yourself an infinite commodity, and commodities are never treasured. To force the world to recognize your weight, you must master the strategic embrace of disappearance. You must possess the cold, unblinking willingness to pack up your premium energy and vanish. You step back from the conversations. You log off. You redirect 100% of your focus inward toward your own physical, mental, and spiritual architecture. Disappearing is not a passive-aggressive game. It is a profound act of self-preservation. When you create a vacuum, people are forced to experience the reality of your absence. And more importantly, in that quiet isolation, you remember who you were before you started twisting yourself to fit into their mold. Lock in your scarcity right now. Comment below. I withdraw my presence to protect my peace. Number 5. The starvation of the validation reflex. Look at the root of why you chase. You chase because your internal bank account is empty and you are wandering the streets begging for emotional currency. You need them to tell you that you are attractive, intelligent, and worthy. As long as your self-worth is printed by a central bank outside of your own skull, you will always be a slave to the crowd. The Stoics recognized that outsourcing your value is the ultimate forfeit of human dignity. To become quietly untouchable, you must violently starve the validation reflex. You must fire the external world from the job of grading your existence. When you do something excellent, you do not look around for applause. When you enforce a boundary, you do not ask for understanding. You evaluate yourself at the end of the day, using metrics that only you control: your discipline, your integrity, and your courage. When you stop looking into their eyes to find your reflection, you transform from a dependent passenger into a sovereign entity. The world is terrified of losing what it cannot control, and it cannot control a mind that validates itself. Establish your internal economy today. Type this: my self-respect is the only currency I require. Number 6. The absolute claiming of the inner citadel. We arrive at the final foundational law of Stoic power. You react, you chase, and you beg because you have left the gates to your mind wide open. You allow the shifting moods of your partner, the chaotic opinions of your co-workers, and the unpredictability of the future to march directly into your core and set your internal city on fire. You must draw a violent, unyielding line in the sand. You must build the inner citadel. The inner citadel is the absolute realization that your external circumstances and your internal peace are two entirely separate dimensions. Epictetus taught that the body, the reputation, and the property belong to the world, but the mind is sovereign territory. To stop chasing, you must take up permanent residence inside this fortress. When they leave, you stand in the citadel and say, "They left, but my mind is intact." When the plan fails, you say, "The plan failed, but my character remains unbroken." You stop asking the external world to be gentle, and you demand that your internal walls become impenetrable. Declare your absolute sovereignty right now. Leave this vow in the comments. My inner citadel is locked and I hold the only key. This is the architecture of an unbreakable mind. It is not built by pleading for a seat at the table. It is not forged in the frantic, anxious pursuit of people who do not see your value. It is built in the cold, unyielding silence of a person who has finally remembered their own infinite power. When you cease the chase, amputate expectation, weaponize your silence, embrace disappearance, starve the need for validation, and lock the gates of your inner citadel, you undergo a fundamental psychological rebirth. You cease to be a fragile beggar in the arena of life. You become the undisputed commander of your reality. The people who once took you for granted will feel the shift. They will sense the sudden heavy gravity of your absence. They will try to test your boundaries to see if the old, desperate, chasing version of you will return. Let them test. They will find that the walls of your inner fortress are no longer made of paper and apologies. They are forged in solid titanium. Will it be comfortable? Absolutely not. Tomorrow, your ego will scream at you to send that message. It will beg you to explain yourself just one more time to avoid the discomfort of letting go. In that exact fraction of a second, you will decide who you are. You will either surrender to the weak programming of your past, or you will strike the anvil. You will breathe, you will close your mouth, and you will cold-bloodedly choose to step back and disappear. If you have stayed in the fire with me until the very end of this transmission, it proves that you possess a rare, undeniable hunger for actual self-mastery that the vast majority of the world completely lacks. You are not a spectator, you are an architect. Prove your commitment to your own evolution right now. Hit the like button to cement your psychological progress today. Share this uncompromising message with a friend who desperately needs to remember their own power, and make absolutely sure you are subscribed so you never lose your edge in a world engineered to make you soft. Leave your final unbreakable declaration in the comments below. I never chase, I expect nothing, and I command my reality. Stay grounded, stay disciplined, guard your inner citadel. I will see you in the next one.